Hey everyone, David Aragona here. Pleased to be joined by Scott Shapiro, who we're happy to add into the fold as a contributor to the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel. I'm sure a lot of you know Scott from his work as an on-track analyst or from following his opinions on social media, as I have for a very long time. So, Scott, happy to have you handicapping with us on the Racing Forum YouTube channel. Just wish we had a slightly more interesting race to start things off with this Grade 3 Monmouth Cup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I know we'll get to better ones as we move forward here, David, but good to be joining such a formidable team. Equal and if not more respect for what you've done. Of course, Mike Beer as well. I've known Gino for a while and looking forward to working with Ashley. So, yeah, excited to get to it with you guys.
Well, as I was mentioning, the race that we're going to focus on here is the Grade 3 Monmouth Cup, one of the stakes taking place early in that Haskell Saturday card, going off as race 6. This one carded at the 1 mile and an eighth distance on the dirt. And likely the money is going to go towards the center of the starting gate, the 2 horse in particular, but really the number 4, Just a Touch, who is listed at 3 to 5 on the morning line. And Scott, he looks pretty formidable on paper.
He sure does, and one of my more embarrassing Kentucky Derby picks of all time, but has rounded back into form. And the thing with Just a Touch is when he has things his way, he's very good. If he doesn't, he's not quite as good. We haven't seen him really deal with adversity, but it does look like he's going to have things, excuse me, his way here in the Monmouth Cup.
Yeah, speaking of whether or not he can get his preferred trip, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And this kind of highlights the fact that he's got plenty of tactical speed, and really everybody else in this field just hasn't shown that early zip to really apply much pressure to him in the early stages. You do have some horses that are maybe stretching out that could be a little bit more forward, but it feels like if Florent Geroux wants a clear lead here, Scott, he's going to be able to get it.
Without a doubt, this horse has enough speed to make the lead against this bunch. Horse like Rabbit Hound is a sprinter stretching out, maybe will be sent aggressively, but it doesn't seem like even he has enough tactical speed. I would assume Florent's going to get very aggressive out of the gate with this horse and play catch me if you can.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with some long shots. The number 1, Gran Yaco, is a horse that's coming in off 2 consecutive victories. And he's the kind of horse that when you highlight his dirt routes, he's had more success doing this than he has some other things because he's tried a variety of different configurations during his career. But still, Scott, he'd have to get a lot faster to be a factor here.
Without question. Now, he has run well over this racetrack, 2 for 4 with 2/3 in his 4 starts here. And he ran really well last time. He was wide throughout in that first level allowance event at Monmouth over this same track, but not quite the mile and an eighth distance. Back on 15 days rest as well. Respect what he did last time out, third off the layoff here, but like you said, up against it.
Up next is another horse priced at 30 to 1 on the morning line, the number 2, Rabbit Hound. He is a horse that is stretching out from sprint races, one of those that we were alluding to earlier. And he's coming off a victory 2 back where he earned a 79 buyer. That's the top number in his career. But I mean, Scott, he's a horse that was claimed for 25,000 going back to the springtime and just seems too cheap to be competitive at this level.
Yeah, this is a massive reach for trainer Dan Ward, former Jerry Hollendorfer assistant. The only impact that I would expect him to be able to potentially have is being tactical, maybe at all. But he looks up against it. An interesting entry here, stretching out to the 9 furlongs.
We get into the real contenders with the number 3, Classic Catch, who's likely to be the second choice behind Just the Touch in the wagering. And we'll take a look at his most recent start at Saratoga, where he was running in a high-level optional claiming allowance race and puts in a really good effort. He's a horse that tends to run really well, hasn't visited the winner's circle in a while, but his speed figures have generally been ticking back up in the right direction lately, and he earned a 99 buyer for this race that we're taking a look at here. The horse that he's chasing home, Willie Dees, is a pretty nice one, but Scott, I don't love the way the Classic Catch is sort of drifting out to the center of the racetrack at the end of this replay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I see there and concerns me. Willie Dees did come back to win a stakes race at Horseshoe Indianapolis on their Indiana Derby undercard, speed favoring racetrack that day. Classic Catch is a horse that likes to finish but doesn't like to win. It's kind of a difficult proposition because we like it, if you like the favorite in this race, Just a Touch. It's hard to think Classic Catch isn't going to at least hit the board here, but he's a tough proposition for me to bet on the win end.
The number 4, Just the Touch. He's 3-5 on the morning line. He is way the horse to beat in this race. We'll take a look at his most recent effort in the Grade 1 Met Mile, which was a loss, but he was facing some really nice rivals in here, including Fierceness, who was one of the top 3-year-olds last year, and Raging Torrent, who is really fast and tough to beat, but he's on his game, and that was the case this day, as Raging Torrent just loved the wet going, was able to run its field off its feet. But Just the Touch, Scott, I was a little bit interested in what was going on early in the race, because it seemed like Florent Giroux wasn't so concerned in getting involved in the pace and was sort of came out with the plan that he was going to rate this horse, especially once Raging Torrent broke so well from the outside, and doesn't really run his best races that way. I think he's going to get back to front running tactics here.
I totally agree with that assessment. You know, you combine the fact that it looks like he's the clear speed, he's the class, he's the best horse, and then trying to rate this horse last time did not work out. You know, I thought he would be right up the hip of Raging Torrent, but that didn't seem like it was the plan. But, you know, like we talked about and like we showed in the pace projector, David, this horse should have a tactical advantage in here as the best horse. Those are usually pretty tough horses to beat.
And I know you kind of referenced him being disappointing in the Kentucky Derby a long time ago, and maybe that gives you some questions about his stamina. I've always thought he was a horse that kind of wants to go longer rather than shorter, so I wonder if the Met was just too short for him last time. The 9 furlongs should be right up his alley. The number 5, Cadet Core, he's a horse that's seeking his 3rd victory in a row, though it's going to be hard to pull that off because while he's run well in his last couple of starts, they've come against some softer competition. He was pretty game in that last race, and the horse that he fended off late in Vagelt, he's got some credentials of his own, just not quite at this level.
Yeah, and Vagelt is a solid racehorse that was 2-5 in that race and was pretty, you know, had a much less favorable trip than Cadet Core. The class is, you know, obviously the question here with this horse. Stretching out to 1 mile and an eighth based on pedigree. He's never tried it. Shouldn't be an issue, but this is his 39th start. So, you know, I think he's going to get the right trip, and I think that'll gives him a chance to hang around for a slice in here. He also could get very discouraged if he's sitting right off of Just a Touch and could easily get turned away and allow several horses to pass him. But at his price, I think he's a worthwhile underneath use.
The number 6, Surface to Air, I think it's another candidate to potentially pick up some pieces in this race. He's coming off a 3rd place finish in the Grade 3 Salvatore Mile last time. That was his first start of the season, coming back off a layoff. They'd actually entered him, I think, a couple times in Saratoga, searching for allowance races that maybe didn't go or he got scratched out of. So probably signifying that he needed a race coming off the layoff. Now stretching out to the 9 furlongs, I think that's going to work a little better for him. He's won going 1 mile and an eighth before, and this is a horse that put forth some pretty nice efforts last year.
He sure did. He had the win in the claiming crown that he got disqualified for. It's listed as a starter, I think, in the past performances. So, but it was a little better than that. And, you know, I think you said it right. I mean, I think the further probably the better for this horse, at least compared to his opposition. And he gets back to potentially or hopefully a fast main track. I think the big question for him is how far off the pace he will be. And if it's not lively, you know, how much that will hurt his chances.
Yeah, the other minor concern for me with him is the lack of being able to use Lasix in this race because all of his good races have come when he's running on Lasix and hasn't run one of those big figures off it. The number 7, Vitality, he is a horse that was off for a while over the winter time, came back off the layoff 2 back at Gulfstream Park, earned a 4-length victory, but did so against weaker competition. I was a little disappointed in the last race at Delaware because he was a heavy favorite against a field that it looked like he should have been pretty tough to beat and settled for 3rd in that spot. And now he's stepping up in class again.
Yeah, this Ontario bred has been, you know, kind of able to put forth some efforts that would put him competitive here, at least, you know, on numbers to an extent. Again, you know, how far out of it will he be? He doesn't have a lot of speed. You mentioned the win against Lesser on May 11th. That was at Gulfstream. That's the 1-turn mile distance. So Vitality to me is, you know, up against it as well here. More so, I'd say, than anything because of the likely pace scenario, but probably a slight notch or 2 at least below the top couple.
And rounding out the field on the outside is going to be another huge long shot, the number 8, Real Sensation, a horse that was claimed for $7,500 just over a year ago at Monmouth. And while he's won a race since then and against allowance company, so certainly made some money off the claim for the connections, they're just biting off a little more than they can chew here.
New York bred, you would think, I don't know, I didn't look back at the conditions too much, but you would think, yeah, there would be some easier fish to fry for this one. I don't think the outside draw helps. You know, the affinity for the surface, 3 back the effort. I don't know. I'm reaching for something to say here, David. I think I agree with you 100%. Real Sensation might be the most surprising result And there's a couple in here that would be quite surprising.
Definitely a few long shots that are tough to make cases for in this Grade 3 Monmouth Cup. Let's go to picks for this race. And Scott, I don't think either one of us is trying to beat the heavy favorite just the touch. Really, the only way to play this race is to try to find somebody interesting to use underneath if you're going to bet it at all. And I see we're both got somebody else in second rather than the likely second choice classic catch.
Yeah, exactly. I love coming on for my first video and coming up with a 3 to 5 morning line favorite, but at least you join me on this. I agree. If you're going to bet the race, I think Classic Catch has a huge chance to finish second, but that would be the angle for me instead of trying to beat the favorite.
4-6-3-5 for me and 4-5-3-6 for Scott in the Grade 3 Monmouth Cup Race 6 on Haskell Saturday at Monmouth. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.